Do your flashbacks feel like expository filler? Are you worried that readers won't care and skip over them or dump your book entirely? Because today we're talking about 7 tips for writing great flashbacks. Let's get started! Hey guys, Nour here and welcome back to my channel. For those visiting for the first time, hello, I'm the fantasy author of the novel Divinity Falling. Be sure to subscribe for weekly writing advice videos. Flashbacks are tricky business, but a big part of why they're tricky is that a lot of writers don't know how to use them properly. A lot of times, inexperienced writers throw in flashbacks just to add more word count or even info dump their character's backstory on the reader. But this won't do, and we won't be doing that in our story, okay? So how do we write effective, intriguing flashbacks? First, make sure the flashback you want to write into your story actually serves a purpose by being tied to the plot. Not every random fact about your character needs its own flashback. Instead, be very selective and think of the moments in your characters' lives that define them. These are the moments that are still affecting them today. For example, if your character was in an abusive relationship and now they're wary of dating new people, maybe something their new date says triggers a flashback of an abusive moment they had in the past. This flashback works because it shows us a little about the character's backstory, but also ties to their current situation. So in other words, it's not a random flashback that will leave readers wondering why the writer felt compelled to share it when it has nothing to do with the rest of the plot. Also, never start your flashback abruptly. Readers will be confused if the scene suddenly changes and the timeline doesn't add up. How did 18-year-old Sophie suddenly find herself in a toddler swing when she was just walking her dog? Don't time travel out of the blue. It'll only disorient readers. Instead, create a cue that indicates a shift is about to happen. For example, Sophie is walking her dog when she spots a neighbor playing with his kid, and the kid is sitting on a toddler swing and laughing. Seeing the toddler triggers Sophie's memory, and she transports us into her childhood where her mom also pushed her on the swing. We didn't just land in the toddler swing. We used a portal to get there, and that portal was seeing the toddler on the swing. Of course, for this to be a good flashback, it must tie to Sophie's current life situation, which means it must tie to the plot. Perhaps Sophie had a fight with her mom recently, so that's why she's on her mind a lot. Or maybe Sophie's mom is sick or dead, so Sophie can't help but be triggered by these things that remind her of her childhood with her mom. No matter what, the flashback must tie to the current situation and not be random. Otherwise, readers won't care that Sophie remembered being on a toddler swing as a child. Now, just as we took a portal to the past, we must take a portal back to the present. Otherwise, readers will be jarred back into reality. One second they're vibing on the swing and the next they're walking a dog. So you must create a cue that triggers your character back to reality. Maybe Sophie hears, in real time, the toddler's dad speaking, and the male voice snaps her out of her thoughts. Which brings me to my next tip. Your flashback cues can come in all forms. Your characters can be triggered by a sight, but also by smells, sounds, and even touch. For instance, Sophie might smell lavender in the air, which happens to be at the same park where her mom used to take her to as a kid. You could be creative with your own flashback cues. Those are the main tips to remember, but I do want to share a few extra tips. Whatever you do, don't start flashbacks right from the start of your story. Your readers aren't invested enough to care about these memories yet. Get them invested in your characters and their current life, and then show them these important flashbacks. Also, keep your flashbacks brief. Don't let them drag on. A few lines or a couple of paragraphs should do the trick. Just touch upon key points in dialogue lines and skip everything pointless. But if you must write a long flashback, give it its own chapter. Long flashbacks are hard to exit from and bring back to reality without being confusing. And finally, don't say things like she remembered when or she thought of the time. Those are simply lazy cues into the past. Instead, create the trigger we talked about, like the toddler on the swing, and just have your character be back to her childhood park. Make sure your tenses are correct to indicate this change and you'll be good to go. So that's all I have for you today. I'd love to know, do you like reading flashbacks and stories? How about writing your own flashbacks? Let me know in the comments. If you're new to my channel, be sure to subscribe. I put out weekly writing advice videos that will take your story to the next level. Also, don't forget to follow me on social media to see what I'm up to from day to day and to chat with me. And before we go, I just want to give a quick shout out to Sarah Frayne and Alan J. Early from my shoutouts here over on Patreon, as well as all my amazing patrons. Thank you all so much for your support. I really appreciate you. And remember, Nour for president!